So man, you got the hard copy?
Hard copy.
I haven't seen. I don't have it. I don't have it. None of my friends have it either. So you're the
It's
only one who has it right now.
I didn't know that it was coming, and then yeah, I got the email, and I was like, yes, please. And then
Yes.
yeah, as
Yes.
soon as it came, yeah, I popped it in earlier this week, and uh, so you designed the menu and everything like that. Did you work with the team on that?
Have nothing to do with the menu. I don't
Really?
know what
It's
is
kind of
is
Criterion, like I have to say. Like, because
really.
Criterion, they do like a song, and they'll do the
What
images.
song is it? Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun,
yeah,
dun.
that
Is
one.
that one?
Yeah,
That one's intense to like play over and over again on a menu.
yeah.
Like, is it
I haven't had it loop long enough to
right?
see like how long it is, but
That's awesome though.
yeah, it's really nice. Got a white border, and then I'm all about the clean look of
Uh-huh.
it. So it's got like Shithouse there, and then the play bonus features chapter, and then it's when you move over it, it goes from white to pink, so it looks clean.
That is awesome. It's funny because I so long ago, it feels like it was maybe in August or something. I sent over, probably even before that, I sent over like, hey, just if you guys want for the Blu-ray, I don't know if people do Blu-rays anymore, but here's like some stuff that you could put on there potentially.
Yeah.
And they never responded. So like I thought it went into the ether or something, but come to find out they've put every single thing that I sent them
Oh, good.
on the Blu-ray. Like they put the Madeline Cooper short.
Yeah.
They put the bloopers that I
Yeah.
like very I don't know, I haven't seen what exactly they've put, but I like sent over like long bloopers. Like I hope they cut it a little bit.
It is. It wasn't that long. I want to say like
Okay.
maybe it was 4 minutes or three
Got
minutes.
it. So they definitely probably picked good ones or something, I hope. But then the deleted scenes, I was like, here's some like deleted scenes, and I didn't really get like a sign off or anything, but there's a lot on there as well. Like it seems like there's like four or five.
Yeah, there's like five. Yeah,
It's a ton. It's a lot. Did you watch any of them?
I did. Yeah.
Isn't it
Uh,
crazy? I have to ask, is there a classroom scene?
I was actually going to talk about that one with you. That one
It
was really funny.
and
It could have been its own thing.
well, I would love to talk about it because it's really crazy to me that they put that on there. When I wrote the script, obviously, it wasn't surefire that we were gonna make this movie, obviously.
Sure.
So you write a script and you want your first scene to be like, uh-oh, this is a movie.
Yeah.
And so I wrote that scene kind of always knowing that it wasn't a part of the movie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think I always thought it was going to be there are some scenes you shoot, I think, maybe I'm like the only person who thinks this way, but that are like really good for morale. And I know that like making Shithouse on set was hopefully going to be somewhat fun, but I knew that like it's hard to watch the scenes if you think about the scenes playing out and doing like multiple takes. It's kind of boring. Like
Yeah.
it's like, is this movie going to be fun to watch? And so we filmed that scene, and that scene like opened the movie on the script, and it just kind of like got people excited, and it was like this big like, I'm so excited to film the class debater scene, it's going to be so much fun. And it was, on the day it was so fun. Jay Duplass is in the
Yeah.
scene. Ava Victor, I don't know if you know her, but she's like this amazing comedian on Instagram, and like it was all just like we were so excited to film it. And I think really about, and I hate saying this, but about like 20 minutes into filming the scene, I kind of let go of the fact that this was going to fit well inside of the movie. Because I
Yeah.
think at first I was like, okay, I'm going to try to make it really raw like the movie is, and funny in the way that the movie is. But there was something about just this, it's such situational comedy
Yeah.
that like that it just didn't fit in the movie. And so I think I knew pretty early on that it wasn't going to make the cut. But it is so funny that now people get to see it, and they're gonna be like, what is what is this scene from? This is a deleted scene from Shithouse, because it is so
So,
cut
yeah.
from a different cloth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I can see what you're saying about it being totally different, almost like like something plucked out of Fast Times, but it still deals with, like, I mean, your character, like, you tap her on the shoulder to
Yes,
inform her, but then she puts you on the spot. But knowing how both of us are, I'm saying both of us
yes,
as in
yes.
me in your character,
Yeah.
you kind of want to, hey, I don't want to be part of like the big scene of it all. I'm okay with having that private discussion with
Right.
Jimmy Floss's teacher character, and I'll
Yes.
give you the truth then, but
In
everybody
front of
else is going to
everybody.
judge me about that later.
Yes, yeah. And two, like there's a lot of things in there that I really loved. Like there is how I put it throughout the rest of the movie, and I cut little parts that related back to it, and I made sure that in the script I could cut out the little things that related back to it. But originally it had moments where Alex kind of realizes he's very spiritually aligned with this Clasterbator character, but he realizes I'm not that uh inept. Like
Yeah,
I don't want to get to a place where I'm doing anything remotely like that. But he has this moment where he's like, this kid is having a terrible time. I'm having a terrible time. Like, what is the difference between us? He's like doing a crazy thing in the middle of the classroom, but all it is wanting control and attention. And so
right.
like that's what Alex is dealing with. And there's a phone call with the mom where he like talks about what happened, and the
Yeah,
mom is like kind of weirdly relating it to Alex without knowing that she is. And Alex is like sitting there like, oh my god, I cannot be the class debater. And so that's like kind of, it was almost like an inciting incident of sorts for the movie, but it just didn't fit at all. But yeah, the and two, I wanted to comment on like it's kind of, there's a broader like a guy seeing very problematic thing and then being like, I'm gonna make it the girl in front of me's problem. Like the girl is the one who sees it and is like, all right, let me tell someone. But like the guy is the one who's like, I'm gonna let this awful behavior be her issue.
right.
Because he could just see it and be like, have the same reaction of like, hey, you can't do that in the middle of the classroom. But instead he's like, nearest girl, please take over the situation for me. But yeah, lots of, we could talk about that scene forever. That could be its whole other short film or something, but not necessarily inside of Shithouse. It's
But
jarring.
it was really nice seeing her walk down the breezeway and see
Yes.
him run in the background.
It
It
was
was really,
very like that was, even that though was tonally maybe not Shithouse. Like it felt like
yeah,
Wes
I could say.
Anderson-y. Yeah. But I did love that cut. It's really great. And him just like running away.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Chandler's running away. He's gone.
You know, before we get into a lot of because we've talked about Shithouse before, and I want to know more about you. Like, what helped develop your taste palette?
Honing the craft of writing the way I did that was like plagiarizing at first. Like it was just like literally, I love with this movie and I'm gonna write the same exact thing, but add a bit of my voice to it. And at first it was like just 5% of my voice and 95% was whoever wrote The Spectacular Now and whoever directed that. And then I would write other things where it's like, okay, now it's like more 50-50, like 50% my voice, and like starting to find that. But it's funny, I always, when people ask for advice, I say like find your favorite thing and just do a rip off of that. Don't show it to anyone because they will be like you plagiarized. But do a rip off and you'll find a bit of your voice in there, like how you would change it or how you make it yours. And then you keep doing that until you find like what is my thing? What are the things that I actually, because I think when you're young, you don't really have, you don't know what you want to say necessarily. But I think a lot of people, once they get to like junior year of high school, senior year of high school, you start kind of reflecting a bit more and you like feel like I have something I want to say. And I, when I got to college, I really spent a lot of that year thinking about this like very universal experience of like leaving your childhood bedroom. And like I felt like I had something that I wanted to say. And I think that's what led to Shithouse, was like all of that background of like trying to find like what my specific sensibility is based on all the things that I had plagiarized. But that's what got me into writing and acting. And then truly what got me into directing was no one else wanted to direct my college love story. So I had to. But that's the answer.
Yeah, well,
Long
that's
answer.
true because when I was in film classes in high school, I pretty much made a rip off of a cross between No Country for Old Men
Yes.
and Fight Club.
Yes, those are big ones. It's I've talked to Jay about this. Jay Plus, like the Coen brothers were there. Like they did Coen brothers ripoffs, and they realized, okay, we cannot pull this off. And
Yeah.
that's how people. That's I think that's how everyone should, or I think that's how a lot of people start. Is just like I have so much love for this kind of thing, and I think I can give it a go.
Something that I watched Shithouse again this morning.
Oh, that's
Um,
really kind of you. I
no, no, I love it. So again, I know this is something that I brought up last time, but
mm,
it's just the moment that means the most to me, and it's the after your big breakdown scene, like that. It's it's really really good your performance in that moment, but just even the moments after of both of the characters kind of living with what happened, the information that's laid over, as hurtful as it is, because I mean that's a truthful fight, like an honest
right.
fight. And I'm just kind of curious. It's to me, it's a poetic moment, but when it comes to writing, you know that it's most honest and truthful when it feels like your soul, like you're pouring your soul out and your heart out and you don't really know it. It's not just like, oh, this is a good thing for me to write, this is the
Right.
good thing for the plot. So I'm just kind of curious selfishly, like the impetus of like how, like what went into kind of creating that moment.
Yeah, well, it's funny. A lot of movies don't work like the way that uh it was always like that for me, that I wanted to have a big fight where they just dig into each other and say all the things. At the end, Alex says, "I'm sorry." Do you remember
Yeah,
that moment? Like, uh, and it's after, so he said something horrible, and then Maggie says, like, "Hey, just because your life sucks doesn't mean you can feel bad." And I think he feels genuinely horrible for
yeah,
what he said, and he looks at her and he says, "I'm so sorry." And obviously, it's not like she's going to be like, "Oh, I accept your apology," and let's like keep talking or something. And so it cuts to her walking away. And it was funny. I got the note from two people, and like two people, that was like the maximum number of people who saw a cut of the movie. So everyone who watched it said, "I don't know if you should say sorry. I think you should maybe." Um, and I was like so confused by this note. But I thought about it and I realized what movies normally do is they have the big fight and they both go away.
hmm,
And there is this like narrative spine of like they've said the things and now it's like it's just like sitting there. And
yeah.
then the scene where like
It's when you
uh
play Coldplay and then
yes,
yeah,
yeah, and they're both opposite, like they're both in their different places or whatever. And then they come back and the first time they see each other, and then for Shithouse, that when they see each other again, there's not a moment of like, hey, I'm so sorry about what I said. But usually in movies you get that like, hey, I'm so sorry, I thought
mhm,
about it, I'm so sorry. But instead it's just this like, it goes back to like what their conflict is, like, all right, you can help me, like, and like, or can I keep these like it
yeah,
just
yeah,
goes right back to it. And I think the reason why I love that montage sequence after the big fight that you're talking about is like they're both Alex loves her and is
yeah,
like so upset, and he's so upset about what he said, but he's also just like so dealing with the things that he's been dealing with since day one of leaving home, and like that's what it is for him. And I think Maggie is this person who has never been yet like yelled at before. Like her, I think of her parents as like cold and distant, but she's not like arguing with people. Like she doesn't come from a family where you like raise your voice like that. Like she
mhm,
can be mean. She can be really mean. But
right,
like this was so uncommon for her. And I think it was like there's going to be no sort of processing. I think maybe Alex came from a family where they did yell or something. Like him and his mom seemed to like fight. For Maggie, it's like this processing of like why did this guy care enough to just go in at me? And so a lot of like, I think the montage is for her is like this processing of, oh yeah, I gotta get rid of it just, I love it so much. And it was literally, yes, when I wrote it, it wasn't at all about plot. It wasn't at all about anything other than like, this is making me cry while I'm writing it. And this is what I want other people to feel when they're watching it. And like so many times people are like, you can't put a you can't do a ghost in the scene. And I was like, no, but I think I can. Like I think it'll work. And even like people who it went over their head that like that was the dad, the ghost of the dad in that scene. I'd like still meant a lot to people. Like they were like, oh, this random stranger is coming up and giving like this unconditional love to this character, and that's what he needs in this moment. Like the rebounding, it's such a good like visual of like make or miss. I'm gonna rebound the ball for you. And so I think even if people didn't realize I was trying to make it the ghost of his dead father, like people were still like, dude, I love that part when the stranger just came up and started rebounding for him. It's like catching boards, dude. That's awesome. And I'm like, yes, it's exactly what Alex needs in that moment. And but yeah, it has no like through line. Also, it's like it just was truly when I wrote it, like the falling out of the fight. It was just like, what's making me feel, and what's like there is a tension. It's not like there's this release, but it's like what is it's still what the movie's about, not like how do I go, where do I go from here. I think that's how a lot of movies think, is like, all right, we've had the big fight, so now let me look at Save the Cat book, that screenwriting book, and like what happens after the big fallout, and they like try to make it work for that. But I think the reason why my movie uh, is affecting but very unorganized is because I'm just going with how I feel and how I want people watching to feel after this moment, and after this moment, and after this moment, and that sort of thing.
Okay, so you're not really thinking about like how can I make this more poetic? Because even earlier on with the multiple choice, can we get some multiple choice up in here on the test? Like, because then the rest, because college life isn't like that.
I'm really, really, really into bigger meaning, I guess.
Mhm.
Like for me, I've always thought about basketball and rebounding, and like something that I hold so close to me is like shooting while my dad is rebounding for me. Like even if it's like a really long miss, like he goes and rebounds it for me. Even if I swish it, he rebounds for me. And it's always felt like there's so much meaning there. And that's
Yeah.
like what my dad is to me, is this like unconditional love and support. And and so like that if we call that poetic, like that's all I care about in movies. And like the multiple choice thing, that is what the central conflict for me
Sure.
is with college. And like Shithouse is like, are there any other houses, are there any other houses besides Shithouse? And it's like, no, that's the only party, that's the only house, you got to go to the Shithouse. And like I was talking to someone else the other day about something that no one will ever pick up on watching Shithouse, but it just means so much to me, is that when Maggie and Alex have their conversation about where they both talk about their dads, the
Mhm.
scene right after that is when they both find out that they see the world through this similar lens. Like they both find out that they're colorblind. And I
Yeah.
always like put that after them talking about their dads, because like to me, they're so wildly different. They're such different people, but they have that same soul sickness, and they see the world through that same, they're very spiritually aligned and share sensibilities in that way. And I think that's why they keep coming back to each other, not just because they're so different and they need to be with someone who's different in this way, which is true, but I think they gravitate towards each other because they have that same, I don't want to say brokenness, but like that same uh, sensibility you have when your family went through some mild uh, those attachment issues that you get with your uh, crazy events inside of your family, which I feel like a lot of people have. But I just wanted to like make it so specific that like, oh wait, we're both colorblind. We're both like finding that out in this moment. And I think but yeah, I say that to say I love higher meaning in things. And even if people don't like, aren't consciously thinking about it, I think it does, like, people like things that are that specific. And even if it doesn't, like, they're not writing a paper about it or something, or like thinking about like what is exactly, why did you put this exactly there? It just feels like this is right and
Yeah.
this is intentional in some way. Like it's funny, no one's ever said that to me about that scene, but no one also has ever said that colorblind scene was so fucking random. Like no one's ever said that, and it feels like people would say that about that scene, but it just is like it feels like it's a part of the movie, and it feels right. Um,
Yeah. I guess that was my experience with it, that it just felt right. Yeah.
yes,
That's a good way
yeah,
of putting it.
yeah.
So, I in my review, I compared it to Linklater, and a lot of other people have. Does that bother you that people draw those comparisons? Because I mean, it was funny watching Madeline and Cooper, and then seeing Before Sunrise that he's watching
Yes,
on his laptop.
yeah. I got chills. Yeah, I no, I it doesn't bother me at all. It makes me so happy because I think at first I was I I get defensive, like, and not defensive like, oh, I don't want to be compared. I got defensive like I don't want people at all to. When you start comparing someone, you start like I'm not like Before Sunrise is such a specific, intelligent movie where they're talking about like philosophy and like reincarnation, and in
Yeah,
Shithouse they're talking about their dads, and
yeah,
so there was this like when people started comparing it to Linklater, I felt the need to be like, well, I'm not trying to talk about reincarnation. Like it's very a different kind of movie. But then I got my head wrapped around the fact that like what I love about Richard Linklater is that he is the kindest director in the world.
yeah,
And he like lets people be people and like is not in any rush. And that's what I want for every movie. So it feels so good to be compared to someone like him. And I just so I love it so much. And yeah, like in the original movie, I wanted to make sure that people knew that like this is my guy. Richard Linklater's my guy.
yeah.
Um, but so yeah, no, I love being compared to him. I think I was defensive at first, but it was just like because I didn't want people to be like, this guy's not Linklater. Because like I don't feel like I am. But I do think that I care about similar things that he cares about.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought about that when I was writing it. I was like, I mean, I don't know how he's gonna feel that I'm comparing it, and it's just because I like movies that take place largely in one
Yeah,
small window,
yeah.
and I mean, you break that in here, but a good chunk of it is, and I like just having really thoughtful conversations. I think I may have mentioned this last time you and I talked, but like one of my favorite conversations that I've had is when I talked to Mark Duplass, and he was talking about, man, just make movies about those conversations that you have with your friends
Mm-hmm.
in the
Yes.
backyard, a campfire. Just don't, yeah, just like those. That's the meaty stuff. That's the stuff like the movies that I like. And we were talking about Boyhood because Boyhood had came out at the time. It was the one I love. I think that's what he was
Yes.
promoting.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Um, so yeah, just I'm a big fan of that kind of that style where it's not, to go back to what we were talking about earlier, not so much focused on the plot mechanics, but just thinking like, I like these characters. I want to put them in these spaces to see how they interact with each other and what kind of conversations they have with one another.
Yeah, what Mark and Jay both talk about like with the you want to make the movie like the sense of humor as well, like
Yeah.
what's making you and your friends laugh at the campfire, like it's so specific all the time, like it's not something that you think like what will make my audience laugh, like it's like what's this thing that you just can't stop laughing about, like put that in your movie.
Well, it's that special feeling that you
Yeah,
get too, like where you're like, this is the best night ever, and we're having this really great night together. And that's the same feeling that we get from the characters in your film of them hanging out and then playing baseball and things
right,
like that. That it
yeah,
just, it's one of those nights where you just don't want it to end.
right,
Yeah.
yes, thank you for saying that.
What's great about those the Before trilogy is that the way that I viewed them when I first started watching those movies, like when I was in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and then the way that I watch them now that I'm older, I'm 31 now. I have a child. I'm married, and the one that I relate to the most. And so when I think back on them, like maybe the first two are a little more idealized, and but I love that kind of
Right.
that those types of stories. And then the third one is just like so honest about like being married and having a family and things like that. So I'm curious about how much you think about your own filmography when you're down the line of how, because I mean, looking at Madeline and Cooper and the how it evolved from there to Shithouse, there's differences there. Would you make any changes to Shithouse now, or do you think about like what how you may view it, or how audiences may view it later in life or whenever they watch it?
I always want to, I wouldn't change anything. And the reason why is like, I always want to make movies about things that I don't have like preconceived notions about, like where I just feel like my personality in general, I think, is to like embrace anyone and anything and everything.
Hmm.
And but after time, like getting to know something maybe more, not more intimately, like because I get to know them intimately, but like uh maybe even like having some distance to it, you start to develop your ideas on the situation as opposed to like, how does it really make me feel? And like, what are the ideas that like we're sitting around and being thoughtful about? But like, I don't want to lose the feeling of like how this very new thing is like impacting me. And so the reason why I want to like keep making things that feel so, I always want to make a movie that like feels really immediate. And I think the reason why anything that I would ever make feels immediate is because I don't have preconceived notions about like what this is supposed to be or what how this is supposed to be presented. And um and it's messy because of that. And it's not like, I think my movies will never be like I don't think I'll ever be Paul Thomas Anderson. Like I don't think I'll ever have that like really assured craftsmanship that like where you feel like I think it's always going to feel like this guy is really figuring this stuff out. And like that was wild that he included that. And I think, but it just makes sense to me that I have to include this crazy thing or this very specific thing because like it's so important for me to include that. And I think that that's the stuff that I really like watching, is the stuff that it feels like um the director is like embracing these things with like reckless abandon
Yeah.
and and like unabashed emotion. Yeah.
I know we can't really talk about Cha Cha Real Smooth very much, but I am curious about making a movie during this time and how that's different.
We're shooting like the first week of August, and we're kind of like hoping that I mean, people are getting so good at
Yeah.
shooting with the COVID restrictions, but at that time we kind of fingers crossed that everyone's going to be vaxxed. Even like there's like a lot of kids in the movie, but they're like all 12 and up, which is now, as of like yesterday, I think the 12-year-olds are allowed to get Pfizer or something, I think.
Yeah.
And so I think our fingers are crossed that everyone will be vaxxed, but we'll still probably have all the protocols and wearing the mask and stuff. And I haven't done it before, so I don't know what it's gonna be like, but I've heard that it's pretty sucky to not be able to see the boom guy's face, because it's just like it's part of making a movie that you love so much. But I think people are getting really good at it. And um, yeah, but I mean, it's weird to like do all of this pre-production on Zoom. It is really weird. And like casting, doing it all on Zoom. Like I'm
Yeah.
not meeting these people in person. And so I think it's going to be intense when we get on set and see each other. It's going to be great.
Ow!
Oh my God.
You are so bad at pitching.
I know.